Hey everyone, welcome to Riverwalk Church's online campus experience. I'm Steve Rhodes, lead pastor here at Riverwalk Church, and today is a very special day. Today is what we call our Better Together service. Every fifth Sunday, Riverwalk Church and New Harvest Fellowship do a service together that we're calling Better Together. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is Better Together, what does it mean, where's it going, and we're going to talk about Riverwalk Church and where we're at, where we're headed. We're going to be talking with Pastor Allen about New Harvest Fellowship, where it's been, where it's going, and how these two churches, how our two churches are going to work better together to reach our community. All right, everyone, so this is Pastor Allen. He is lead pastor of New Harvest Fellowship. And he's going to take a moment and he's going to explain what Better Together is, where the idea came from, and kind of the vision behind it. So Pastor Allen, do you want to explain what Better Together, where that came from?
Absolutely. Obviously COVID had a great impact on a lot of our churches, and unfortunately in the entire U.S., we've seen a sharp decline in the church attendance. And so we've had some challenges to try to meet the needs of the community with less resources, less people, and such. And so fortunately, New Harvest Fellowship had been around for 17 years now, and had facilities, acreage, everything was paid for. What we lacked, though, was, as a lot of churches, we got into a situation where we got a little older. Our congregation got a little older, and therefore we were lacking in youth programs and things that would help the community a little bit more to grow the church. And so what we decided to do was invite Riverwalk to come in and use our facilities. We had all these facilities, and thought it would be, out of Ecclesiastes, it talks about two are better than one, because they get a greater reward for their work. And so we just thought it would be awesome opportunity to invite another church to come in and join with us. And so that's how the idea came about. And right now we've are starting this upcoming week. We'll be going to, our service will go from traditionally 10:30 to a 9 o'clock service, and then Riverwalk, who was meeting in the afternoons, is going to start going to 11 o'clock. And so, and then we'll have a joint Wednesday night Bible study, and just begin to see how that all progresses. But I believe Riverwalk has the youth programs and the children programs that a younger generation needs, and I believe together with New Harvest, which we have the more adult programs and seasoned people, we can really make a difference and an impact for the community.
So with Riverwalk Church, we launched in September of 2021, and leading up to that launch date has been an adventure, to say the least. I got on my heart that I wanted to pastor a church. I wanted to plant a church in August of 2019, and the first part of 2020, we went and did church plant training and all of that, and then right after that, we went into lockdown mode with COVID. And so here I am, me and my family. That's the only people on the launch team, is me, my wife, my 3 kids, and my Basset Hound. And we were the official launch team of Riverwalk Church. And God was growing his church, and God was doing a work. And we had this incredible facility lined up. And, it just didn't work out. We pushed our launch date back, and we kind of gave up that contract to that facility. And for months, I was kind of just scratching my head going, where's Riverwalk Church going to meet? How are we going to do this launch? Like what is this going to look like? And in Santa Rosa County here where we're launching, there was still a lot of restrictions on schools and meeting venues and all these places that would facilitate a church with a children's program. And, our options were, I didn't know what to do. And I remember calling my church planning coach and my district superintendent with our denomination. And I said, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to launch. I don't know where to have church. And so I said, hey, I know Pastor Allen. I met him several years ago. My wife used to babysit his kids when they were real little, and that was 20 years ago. And I just said, hey, I know Pastor Allen's sitting. He's at New Harvest Fellowship. I'm just going to stop by one Wednesday and ask if we could use their facility. That was all of our intentions. I stopped by on a Wednesday. Service got over at 7. We stayed talking here at the church till like 11 o'clock at night. and I told Pastor Allen, I said, Pastor Allen, I just want to know if I can use your facility, but between 7 o'clock service ending till 11 o'clock, we almost had this whole Better Together thing figured out from the get-go. And so we come up with, we'll launch September 12th, 2021, and we'll have a 5 o'clock service, and they would have their 10:30 service that they always had. And we launched. Y'all did incredible. Y'all responded well to the 5 o'clock, but Pastor Allen came to us right towards the end of the year and said, hey, what if we move our service to 9 o'clock and you guys have an 11 o'clock service, so that way it could better help you in what you're doing, and for a pastor to come and to be so selfless and thinking, what's best for the churches and not what's best for this one church or your church, like what's best for both, was incredible. And so the first of the year, we went to an 11 o'clock service, and actually most of the month we did joint services with our congregations together, and it's just been an incredible worship experience. So I went from having a team of 20 people, 30 people ready to launch a church with nowhere to launch to having a home that's long-term and that is, setting us up for success, helping New Harvest, setting them up for success, and all because God took out my plans. Right? I had all my plans, and God said, those are great plans, but I have something better. And I'll tell you, sometimes when God says that, it's nerve-wracking because we didn't know what better was. And now we see it's better together. And that's kind of where our heart has been. That's where our back has been. Our past has led us to this moment. So it's incredible to see how God set us back to set us up, and that's where Better Together came from for Riverwalk and for where we're at now. So Better Together for Riverwalk is an incredible opportunity because kind of our backstory of Riverwalk and planning a church through a pandemic, and you could imagine the difficulties that went through with different restrictions on locations and meeting places, and we connected with Pastor Allen and his team here at New Harvest Fellowship, and they opened their arms and opened their doors, and so we were more than welcome to come and to use their facilities here at New Harvest Fellowship. And the incredible thing about it is it's been so much more than just us using their facilities. God has really brought us together to use this moment, to use this space, to use both of our visions of where we see church and where we're going to help truly reach our community and to create a place where families can come and to be ministered to as the whole family. And so Better Together is more than just us using a facility or them blessing us. Better Together is a vision and a calling for us to reach our community together. And I think I think the idea of churches working together for God's kingdom is such an incredible idea and so much more beneficial than churches working apart because we're all part of the same church. We're all a part of the same kingdom. And God is doing a work here between New Harvest and Riverwalk that is setting all of us up to better reach our community. And we couldn't be more excited for what God's doing. We couldn't be more excited for how the people of New Harvest and the people of Riverwalk are bonding together with the same vision and the same calling to reach and to bless the community of Pace and Milton. And we want to encourage you to be a part of this, to come and to be better together with Riverwalk and better together with New Harvest as we're all working to bless this community. So do you want to take a moment and kind of explain the history and the formation of planting New Harvest and what it's done and how God's used you over the last 17 years?
Basically, New Harvest started out of a disaster itself. You might remember Hurricane Ivan had pretty much done a lot of damage here in the local area, and there was a church called Glad Tidings that used to be located on Highway 90 that was pretty much totally destroyed. And like a lot of churches, they were underinsured, and with building regulations and the new codes and things like that, there was just not enough money to rebuild it. And so unfortunately, it was one of those situations that our district felt like that it might be better to close it. And we did have a superintendent at the time that approached me and knew I had some building experience, and asked if I would take a look at it and see if it's something we might want to try to salvage. And I looked at the situation we had on Highway 90 to build back. It there just didn't seem to be an ideal location because we wanted to be in a community, and being on the main road of Highway 90 wasn't really what we wanted to try to do. So we were fortunate enough to have an individual that offered us 4 acres on Berry Hill Road here, and so what we did is we sold the property instead of rebuilding there, and we put up modular buildings out here on Berry Hill with the intent that, and we kind of sit back off the road, and everybody always asks, why you sit so far back off the road? It's always been our intent that the building we're in now, it's a modular building. It can be moved to another location. And our vision is one day to put the new church out in the front of the property, and then use the existing facility to start a new church somewhere else. And we got so far behind this one concept that we actually had a metal building that we had purchased, and the congregation unanimously agreed, let's go ahead and build another church somewhere else. And so we donated that building that would have been our permanent building to another church out of Tallahassee. And so out of this work, we actually have 2 churches that are existing today, which is kind of awesome. And one of the things I love about our people is that they have a heart to give, and they have a heart to share. And we have worked over the years with many churches, many different denominations, trying to further and help the community with the needs. One of the things that I loved about one of the projects we did was we used to put suitcases in the cop cars, the police department, sheriff's department, and in those suitcases, we found out that they'd go into homes and have to take children out, and they were putting stuff in little Walmart bags and things like that, and so we put toys in those suitcases and put Bibles in those suitcases, and just, we like to work with the community and the different agencies that are out there to try to better the community. But in 17 years, we went from 9 people. At one point we were running 130, 140, you know how life is. And then over the years, your congregation starts to get a little older, and the challenges that arose, we got to the point where we began to see a decline, like a lot of churches, and but the hope's still there and the desire's still there to do something for the kingdom and the community. And so I love the idea of us joining together with Riverwalk and working hand in hand and seeing the church transform. I was thinking about it last night. One of the concepts that, can you imagine having, we have one Navy, one Army, one Air Force, but can you imagine having hundreds of thousands of different little tiny armies trying to combat an enemy? Yeah. It just doesn't work. And I think the concept of churches coming together and uniting under one banner to further the kingdom of God, I mean, we've got to begin to think this way. Individually, we can't accomplish what we can together. And we are in a fight, we are in a war for the souls of this nation. And I believe we have to begin to think outside of the box, where we do come together. And it's not the Baptists or the Methodists or the Assemblies of God, it's Christians coming together to further the kingdom. And one of the things I love about our congregation is we have Baptists and Catholics and some Methodists and some Assembly of God, and we just have a diverse group of people, and they have one goal. They just want to see the kingdom of God prosper in our community, and I like that. And it's where my heart is. It's where the congregation's heart is, and we know that's where Riverwalk is as well. So,
yeah, it's been an incredible journey, because I can definitely say, being a part of New Harvest Fellowship since we launched in September, that identity of New Harvest and wanting to give and wanting to serve and wanting to better our community is very evident. And I think when I hear the stories of y'all, helping another church build a building or a lot of this stuff, it's just evident in every service. In every service, every time we get together, you see and you hear and you feel the hearts of New Harvest and wanting to reach our community and wanting to better God's kingdom. And I think COVID has really done a job of kind of exposing that all of our churches went through the same struggle. We all saw the decline in attendance. We all saw the shifting of having to update and be more present on social media with videos and having that as a way to reach our people. And so I think COVID has really showed us that all of our churches, we're all going through the same thing, maybe on a different level or maybe different degrees, but it's showing us that if one is going through this issue, we're going through this issue, why can't we work together instead of competing or instead of being threatened by another church? Like, we're all doing the same work, so it's why don't we work together? And it's been an incredible journey.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed it myself, and I know the people, our people have really come together, and it has amazed me how smooth the transition it was. I know when I first began to speak to it to some of my pastor friends, that, hey, we're going to move our service to 9 a.m. and allow the other church to meet at 11. They was like, you're giving up the prime time? And I'm like, no, it's God's time. It's not our time, it's God's time. And you know how other ministers can wonder when God puts a vision in your heart. They obviously don't have that same vision, so it's hard for them to have the same faith in it that you and I might have. But the whole key of any ministry is to progress to the next stage. Any business has got to progress, and so how do we combat the COVID situations, the lack of spirituality in America now, and the decline, nationwide in church attendance, and you have to face it, and sometimes you have to do things that are not traditional. Look at things differently than maybe you've ever looked at it before. I know one of our concerns was when we were actually told, hey, you can't meet. At first, at the beginning of COVID, go online, do the online thing. it was very hard for me to grab a hold of a concept like that. That's a younger generation, concept from somebody like me that's 30-something years in the ministry. I want to see the people. It's kind of hard to not see them. So I kind of went against the normal there, and we did a parking lot service where we had everybody come out in their cars, and we had a system that you could tune into the radio, because I just couldn't grab a hold of the online thing personally. But you do it so well, and this younger generation, it's kind of the way things are moving toward or gravitating toward. We as senior ministers have to allow the change to come and not be threatened by it, but to somehow support it, and at the same time support those that are transitioning, with us as well. My older congregation is always going to be a hands-on kind of generation, and so we have to minister to their needs. And what I try to do with my people is to instill in them that everybody matters, everybody is important, and we have to minister to everybody. And that's why I believe our people were so ready to accept Riverwalk and the younger generation into their midst, was because they've always been taught that it's not about us, it's about who we're trying to serve, and that everybody has a voice and everybody has a place in the church. And we one of our sayings is we're not a clothesline church. In other words, you don't have to dress a certain way to come to our church. You don't have to be a certain even denomination to come to our church. We have open communion. We just want people to come together and celebrate Jesus. But that can be done in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be the traditional 10:30 service and 3 songs and a 30-minute sermon. You got to look at new ways of doing things, and one of the great things about our church is they're ready to accept new things, which a lot of churches might be more difficult to accept. So I'm looking forward to where this progresses, because we're at the beginning of all this. So I mean, can you imagine what if 2 or 3 other churches say, well, why don't we join them as well? I mean, it doesn't have to be just Riverwalk and New Harvest. Maybe there's some other churches out there that might end up joining with us. And can you imagine what we could accomplish for Pace? Right here in this one location, there's over 1,000 homes going to be built over the next year. Wow. Over 1,000 homes. That's a lot of families that are going to need Jesus. Yeah. And we have a golden opportunity where we're at to meet those needs. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think with COVID, it's kind of done a full cycle to where we all went online, and COVID really challenged us to be more present on social media. But now it seems like after almost 2 years of social distancing and staying apart and watching online and a lot of things, I'm starting to see more people are ready to be back together. They've done the online. Online's been incredible. We've started with an online presence since we launched in September, and you guys have been incredible. But I'm seeing more people are ready to get back together, ready to worship together, ready to pray with one another, and to get back to truly doing life together. And one thing I would encourage is if you're out of state and you're watching this from somewhere else. I know we have some people from Daytona Beach and other areas that are watching. Start to pull people in your home with you. Start to pull people back, because people are looking for connections again. They're looking to social togetherness instead of social distancing. So, invite people to come into your home that watch these services together. Build that church environment up where you're at with these videos. And that's what I love about New Harvest. Y'all never stopped meeting. You met different, You met in the parking lot, and you had the cars all playing the message, and they could be together without the risk of spreading COVID or getting COVID. So you found a way to stay together, and it worked wonderfully. And your numbers actually grew during that time, and you had more people in the parking lot than you would on a regular Sunday. So people want to be together, and I think that's why this has worked so well at the time that it did. That our church is primarily young married couples. Your congregation is a mix of older and middle-aged and things like that. So it's really neat that we can be together and have every age group of life, from infants to seasoned saints, to everything in between. So when someone comes to visit New Harvest or Riverwalk, they're coming to a church that welcomes everyone. And we have ministries, and we're building ministries. We're a new church, so we're still building ministries that meet the needs of all ages. And it's incredible how this has just worked together. And I think that Pace and Milton and this area is going to experience what we mean when we say better together.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm hoping and praying that more churches grab a hold of this concept that, the Bible speaks truth, and the truth is two are better than one, because you get a better reward, a better return for the investment that you're putting out there. And it's a concept that is multiplication. I mean, can you imagine? Riverwalk doesn't have to find a building. They don't have to, buy stuff that's already been bought. They don't have to put a $200,000 parking lot in. All these different things, you can concentrate just on ministering the needs of the people. And I think it's a wonderful concept, and one that I hope many other churches grab a hold of, because unfortunately, over 1,000 churches close every year. Yeah. And monthly, hundreds of ministers are leaving the ministry. And at some point, we've got to stop the leak. And the way we do that, I believe, is to come together.
Yeah, and what's, thinking about this, what's been incredible is, every church needs young married couples, children, and every church needs senior adults and middle-aged adults. Every church needs the whole age group. And what I think is incredible is you've been a church here in this location for 17 years, and you're primarily middle to late age people. Mm-hmm. And we're a church that was lacking that. And really, out of the blue, we come together and meet. And now, instead of having a church that needs younger people or a church that needs older people, we're fulfilling every need in that area, because what you were lacking we had, and what we were lacking you had, but together we're ministering to the whole family. Right. And it's incredible how God just had two churches that was lacking what each other needed and brought it together in such a smooth transition, like you could tell the whole journey was God's end, and that God was putting this together, and that what we were needing, you had, and what we had, you needed. And it's just incredible just kind of thinking about how God said, I'm going to build a complete church out of two incomplete churches.
It's an awesome concept, and like you said, it's a God thing. I haven't heard one complaint from any of my people about they've accepted Riverwalk 100%. They're behind Riverwalk. They want to see Riverwalk succeed, and I believe the same can be said of your congregation. Yeah. They want New Harvest to succeed, and together we are better. And looking forward to what this year is going to bring, because I just can't imagine. With the energy that both sides bring to the table, and I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we wanted to film a special service for you today, this special time where you get to experience what God has been doing in Riverwalk and what God has been doing in New Harvest Church. And so when you see that we usually hashtag Better Together in all of our posts, that's what we're talking about. Because God is building a church where we can minister to your family, whether it's beginning of life or towards the end of life. Like, God is building a church that is better together so we can be better to reach your family. And so if you're watching this, wherever you're watching this from, and we hope that you put in the comments where you're watching from, we want you to know that there's a church here in Pace, Florida, that's working better together for your family. And if you're local here to the area, we would invite you to be a part of our services and to come to experience what God is doing at New Harvest Fellowship and Riverwalk Church in Pace, Florida. So if this interests you, if this is something that you feel saying, hey, I need people to do life with, I need people who could be on this journey with us, we want you to join us. Come be a part of what God is doing at New Harvest Fellowship and at Riverwalk Church. You could go to riverwalkchurch.com and you can see service times. And we meet at 11 a.m. on Sundays. And New Harvest is currently meeting at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings. So you could come and to be a part of either one of those services. Come to be a part of both services. And just see what God is doing here in Pace, Florida, to better reach and minister to your family. And I want to encourage you, if you're watching this and you say, hey, I love this idea, I want to give you two options. If you want to be a part of what we're doing in person or wherever you're located, why don't you go to riverwalkchurch.com, go to the Connect section, send us a message and say, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. How can I help better together? The second way you can help is by going to riverwalkchurch.com and giving. Go to our gift portal and say, send us a note, say, hey, I love what you're doing. I can't be there in person, but I can give, right? I love my church. I love what I'm doing, but I want to support the efforts that you are putting into this. And you want to give to further what God is doing here, please go to riverwalkchurch.com/give and help us as we are reaching and blessing the families of Pace and Milton.